And welcome to Both Sides of the Bench with Sean Yurtkaran. That's me. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday morning. There was a lot of storms last night that apparently damaged a lot of the area. I'm out here in Florida, and I went to the gas station right before I got here, and then none of the credit card machines are working. Everybody is looking for cash, which kind of made me laugh because I had an incident a few weeks ago where I was trying to pay with cash at a place that accepted it, but they couldn't break 100 for something I was paying like 56 bucks for, because we live in this society now where nobody wants to take cash. Like, it doesn't, it's not like they look at it like it's some, like a foreign currency or or some kind of like gold coin. It's really weird how that's evolved over the years. If you hand somebody cash now, it's just no one's used to it here. But everybody was scouring for cash in the gas station just a little while ago because the credit card machines are down, and the it's chaos. So in my neighborhood over in Bellhaven, there was a lot of trees down too. I was walking my dog this morning, and I was noticing that that's a problem over there. We got a bunch of trees, and you get the weather like this, and things happen. So I hope everybody was safe last night. There was a lot of tornadoes I saw around the country, and this kind of weather at this time of year, as we all know, it's very dangerous. So I hope everybody's safe, and I hope everybody's going to enjoy today's show. I'm going to be on for 2 hours today. Matthew Bishop is out, so I will be covering the second hour, and so you have to deal with 2 hours of legal talk. The first hour, I'm going to get into kind of tacking off what I did last week, which was based on legal myths or misconceptions, things that you think are true about the law that were not. And I think one of the examples that I used last week was, do the police have to read me my Miranda rights? And of course, they do if they're trying to interrogate you, but not if they just arrest you. And so, but that's something that people call me all the time, and they think that that's what has to happen. The minute they arrest you, you got to read you your rights, and that's not accurate. So I went through a whole list of those, and apparently people all week were calling me and asking me about them, and so that was pretty popular. And so I'm going to go into, there's so many more of those. I'm going to go into that today. And the second hour, I think we're going to talk nothing but, or mostly, I can always go off on tangents, mostly DUI law, because that seems to be the crime that these people call me a lot on, and that we all encounter. And there's a lot of myths to that particular crime. So I'll answer that, especially now in the day and age that we are, we have medical marijuana and how that applies to DUIs, and how whether you can drive after you've been smoking some of your medical marijuana. No, it's an easy way to answer that. I know a lot of people get confused, but no, that'd be an answer. No, if you get high just because you're prescribed to be high doesn't mean you get behind the wheel. So just remember that. And I think a lot of people just don't think that those two things correlate, but it's just like if you were prescribed prescription drugs that impaired your ability to drive, you cannot get behind the wheel. So, but I'll discuss that more in the second hour. The a couple things first, though, I want to thank Molly Minta with Mississippi Today. She wrote an article that came out, I think, on Wednesday about a client of mine named Cortez George, who, when I represented him, he was charged with a capital murder, and I was able to successfully get that case dismissed at the preliminary hearing at the front end of that, and I'll get to that portion in a moment. But unfortunately, about 7 months later, in March of 2025, Cortez was killed at the St. Patrick's Day Festival in Jackson, not this year, but last year. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with what happened there. And he was killed in a crowd of people. And I think one person has been indicted in that, but the others were what's called no billed, or chosen not to be indicted by the grand jury. So unfortunately, that happened. And but Cortez was a great guy. I actually really liked him a lot. He's one of those clients that I got along with very well, and was happy after I got his capital murder case dismissed that he was kind of building a new life. He was working. He was trying to advance his life. He's only 20 years old, and he was doing really, really well. Really nice young man. Great family, great mother. They all when they hired me, his whole family came and met with me. And they were very involved, and just good people, salt of the earth people. And that kind of, in the article, talks about the case that I'm representing him on, where he was charged with the capital murder of this DJ, and the evidence that they arrested him, put him out in Raymond, and then we have the preliminary hearing, and the evidence that JPD has against him is a witness that they talked to. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm going to try to I'm trying to make it make sense because it really doesn't. A witness that JPD had interviewed had heard from another person that Cortez, my client, was involved in the murder of this DJ. Okay, so I'm going to back up and let me do that again. JPD interviews a guy who says that they heard from another guy that my client, Cortez George, was involved in the murder of this DJ. Okay, so you don't have to be a lawyer to know how ridiculous that sounds. And I called it, I think, during the preliminary hearing. I asked him, so like the person you talked to heard it on the street. That's basically what you're saying. And that's not enough to arrest somebody for capital murder, that somebody heard it on the street. But that's what JPD did in this case. They talked to a guy who they didn't even remember, if my recollection is correct, who they talked to that told them that they had heard it on the street. And they certainly didn't remember that guy, that the guy they didn't remember talked to. So let me say that again. They talked to a guy, they don't remember his name, and he talked to a guy and they don't know his name. And the other guy, the second person who they never talked to and don't know their name, said that my client was involved in a capital murder. It's called Judge McDaniel heard that evidence and immediately dismissed the case, as he should have. And it was quite unbelievable. There was, that's just, I mean, you can imagine it. If you can get arrested based on what somebody else told somebody. Think about that. How many times has somebody else told somebody else that you did this or that and it was untrue? Happens all the time. You got to have actual evidence, some evidence, especially when you're talking about any case, but when you're talking about a capital murder and you go out and you arrest somebody because you talked to somebody who heard it on the street, that's insane. And I don't know what would even led a detective to issue an arrest warrant for something like that. I can't imagine it. And when I heard the testimony, it kind of made me look like Perry Mason, even though it was a layup. I'm gonna be honest. I consider myself to be a pretty good lawyer, but this wasn't like something that was I wouldn't call it difficult to question that, because it's something I never seen. I've actually never seen that in all the cases I tried. I've never seen someone get arrested based upon what somebody else heard on the street. It's something that is so stupid that they wouldn't even teach you about that in law school almost. It's something, you don't even have to go to law school to know that that would be something that you shouldn't be able to arrest you on. But that was what happened here. Unfortunately, he was arrested on something that somebody had heard on the street. And JPD didn't even know these two guys' names. Even the guy they talked to, they didn't have that notated. And I worked with JPD. There's some great people over there that I worked with for years. One of them being the current sheriff, Tyree Jones. He was a great homicide detective, incredible. Eric Smith was a good friend of mine. He was unfortunately he was killed in 2013. And that guy may be the best cop I've ever met in my life. And it's just, so it's not. I'm not trying to trash JPD, but there at that time, this is 2024. I'm talking about. There needed to be better oversight of what happened. What they were doing. And I don't even know how something like that would have even plausibly gotten through. And and a young man, my client, and his family having to go out and spend much money on a lawyer and being put through that based upon what somebody else had heard on the street. So we got it. Those are times where, we have to hold our police to higher standards. They've got to, and that shouldn't be hard. I think I've told a lot of actually police officer friends of mine, and I've got a lot of them about this, and they all laugh. They're like, that's incredible. Like, who could have done that? Who would even thought it was a good idea? So most law enforcement professionals are not going to arrest you based on that. Again, I've been doing this for 21 years, and I've never, ever seen that before. And I have probably tried over 100 cases on the prosecution side and the defense side. And it's just, that's just not something that's common. But, that's why I'm glad, I do what I do, because there's the times when you need a lawyer. When things like that happen, the system does not always work the way it's supposed to. Sometimes you get arrested because somebody heard something on the street, as ridiculous and crazy as that is. But that is what happened here. And I was glad that we were able to get Cortez out of jail at that point, and those charges were dismissed. Unfortunately, he was killed months later, just going to the St. Patty's Day parade. And as we know, we've had some violence at that parade over the last 3 or 4 years. There was the Jordan Cummings case that has been, well publicized, and he was convicted for that. And hopefully the people that killed Cortez will be convicted as well in that case. And of course, I take that, I know I'm a defense lawyer, but this one's kind of personal to me because I did really like his family. I represented another one of his family members, and him, and I just it was a horrible thing. So, but you can go to Mississippi Today. Molly Minta has written an article about that. She's also written some really good articles about the public defender system in our state, and that the fact that they're not paid equally to what the assistant DAs are paid, which is something back, God, nearly 20 years ago when I started as a assistant DA, that always bothered me. I didn't understand why that was not comparable. I mean, I understand it from, I guess, well, lack of a better way of saying this, logistically, the counties pay the, or fiscally, whatever, the counties pay the public defenders, and the state pays the DA and the assistant DAs. So it comes from different funding sources. But I think, both of them are doing really hard jobs, and it should be equal pay for that. I mean, they're both in the same courtroom, both doing all those cases. And so she's written some really good articles about that. I hope the legislature gets its butt in gear next year and will fund this properly. I don't think it's really fair to leave it with just the counties. I think that the state should pick up the tab for this, just like they do the assistant DAs and the DA and the judges. I think this should be something that the state pays for and not saddle the counties with that, because it's hard. I mean, it's hard for a lot of counties to be able to fund that. So I think there should be a state way or mechanism to do that. Hopefully that'll happen next session. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, because they don't seem to do a lot of things that I think are correct over there, but we'll see. But I think that's an important thing, because you need good public defenders. For also, if Cortez's family didn't have the means to hire a private attorney, there's a lot of people out there that are charged incorrectly. And I know that what we think, that everybody is automatically guilty when you're arrested, and that's just not true. I mean, in my experience, that's just not true. I can't tell you how many cases when I was on the other side that I dismissed for lack of evidence. I mean, it happens all the time. And you got to think, all these are regular people that got to come out with money to hire an attorney. It's not cheap. It's not a cheap thing to do. And so you want a robust, qualified public defender system as well, because what if it's you one day? You got to think about that. And it's an important thing. So I hope they'll do that. And I hope that we will, in Hinds County and Jackson, that with this new police chief, that there'll be a new focus on how to properly charge cases. And I think, it's easy if you look at this one. Rule one is you can't arrest somebody because somebody heard something on the street. Seems like it should be simple, like anybody would be able to pick that up. But apparently we need to write that down for the Jackson Police Department, that you can't arrest somebody for word on the street. You can't subpoena the street to testify in court. I used to say that to victims' families. I remember when they would say, "Oh, we heard on the street that so-and-so was involved in this case." I'm like, well, unfortunately, we cannot subpoena the street. And I will pick a lot of this back up. And we're going to talk about AI on the next segment of Both Sides of the Bench. Y'all stay tuned. Y'all stay tuned.
WYAB. Sean, I'm really going to need your help.
What'd you do this time, Lindsay?
Well, unfortunately, I got pulled over last night.
And what did you tell the police?
Only had 2 drinks.
Only 2, huh?
Only 2.
And I'm assuming you had more than 2. Is that correct?
Only 2, Sean.
You should have stayed silent, Lindsay. I know you can't do that, and that's tough with you, but you should have said nothing.
I can't ever stay silent.
Yeah, I know that.
And now I'm in trouble, though. How can you help?
Well, I can tell you this. Next time you get pulled over, police, when you've been drinking and driving, stay silent. Don't say that you've only had 2 drinks, because that just helps them and hurts you.
So what should I have done?
Called me.
Really? How do I do that?
601-862-1320 or
onetextlaw.com.
Next time you get pulled over by police, stay silent.
Why don't you mind your own business?
Mind my own business? What's that supposed to mean?
No, I was just thinking about all the news of tax changes, insurance changes, regulations that are being passed down to business owners. I don't have time to keep growing and to keep up with payroll regulations.
I know. It seems like all I do is handle employee-related problems.
You know, I hear People Lease can help.
How can they help?
People Lease can handle our payroll, taxes, employee benefits, and workers' compensation. They even offer an affordable and customizable 401k program and a 24/7 online human resources support center for all my HR needs.
Think of all the time we'll save. I'll be busy growing my business and letting People Lease take care of the rest.
Sounds like a good business plan with People Lease.
Let People Lease mind your business so you can mind your own business. Call now. 601-987-3025. That's 601-987-3025. Or visit freepayrollquotes.com for your free quote.
If you're a parent or grandparent, you should know that even though Mississippi is ranked as the unhealthiest state in the country, we have the highest vaccination rate for our children and grandchildren. Many of us blindly trust the medical establishment, and now it's time to question vaccine safety. Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights is a grassroots organization working to educate the public and lawmakers about this important topic. Be informed. Go to mpvr.org. Like us on Facebook to stay up to date on the latest information. That's Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, mpvr.org.
How do you get the hell out of your life?
Get on your knees and cry out to the Lord. He hears you right where you are.
Oh gosh, Jesus.
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 How do you get the hell out of your life?
He will love that hell out of you.
You trust in him and you let him love the hell right out of you.
So how do you get the hell out of your life? Listen Saturday mornings at 7 and 7:30 on 103.9 WYAB or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sean, we all know Ronald Reagan is the greatest president of our time.
Have you forgot about Bill Clinton? The 1990s were awesome.
Who could ever forget about Bill? Remember Monica?
Yes, I don't think Bill has forgotten about Monica either.
And Bill needed a lawyer just like Donald Trump does these days.
Yes, Donald Trump has certainly needed a lot of lawyers, and so do people that get pulled over by the police or arrested by the police, Lindsay. You know why?
Why, Sean?
Because somebody needs to tell them to shut up, like I attempt to tell you, which doesn't work.
Never works. I'm sure it does, but you can actually get in touch with Sean if you're in trouble at onetextlaw.com.
And you can also reach me at 601-862-1320. I can't get her to be quiet, but I can definitely convince you to be quiet if you call me at 601-862-1320 and get a lawyer. Be like the president.
onetextlaw.com.
And we're back on both sides of the bench here on this Saturday morning where I'm talking about, well, last segment I was talking about how JPD apparently can arrest you for talking to somebody that knows word on the street. That's the evidence, word on the street. And but I'll get some other stuff to get into today. And I'm going to be covering for Matthew Bishop on the second hour. He is out today. So that hour, we're going to be probably talking about all your DUI questions. And the only question you should be asking yourself is, why haven't I downloaded the Uber app? That should be your question. Why have I not downloaded the Uber app? You should definitely do that rather than drink and drive. We live in a day and age with great technology that has hurt us and helped us. This is one of the ways it's helped us, where you can access a ride easy if you've been out drinking. And if you can go out drinking, you can afford the ride home. It's cheaper than me. It's cheaper than hiring me. I know I'm not trying to hurt my own business, but I don't want anybody to get hurt on the road. And the consequences of a DUI are pretty stiff, and it costs a lot of money, and you'll be dealing with it for quite a while. So, but I will talk about that more in the second hour and answer all of y'all's questions related to that. Here we are. What I'm trying to get into is kind of what's called legal misconceptions. But this topic is like a newer thing that actually just happened in February. There was a new ruling. It's regarding AI. We're all using AI now for everything. We see it, the minute you Google, Gemini pulls up a summary. Everybody's addicted to ChatGPT. I know I am. It's a problem. I ask ChatGPT everything. I even had it. I bought a PlayStation 5 the other day and had it recommend a video because I've never really been a big video game guy. So I had it try to tell me like, what video games do you think I would enjoy? And it's like, well, based upon your history. I'm like, okay, because I'm a lawyer and was in the Marines, apparently had thought that this game called The Last of Us would be a good starter. So I played a little bit of it, but sometimes my attention span doesn't really work that well. I'm trying to de-stress through video games, as ridiculous as that sounds, but we all use it. We're using it for everything. These days it creates images. It's like almost like a Google search engine. It's helped me redecorate my house. I mean, it does everything. And well, apparently, unfortunately, some people are taking that one step further, and they're using it as a lawyer, and they're confessing to their AI. So they're asking their AI questions about their case. So let's say, you rob a bank, and they're saying, okay, ChatGPT, if I went into the bank and I, had stolen whatever amount of money, and I left a note with, that said, I left a note saying, give me $10,000. Is there such thing as handwriting analysis? And can they match my handwriting? So let's say you say something stupid like that. Well, that information that you've given to ChatGPT to connect the dots for the police is now considered discoverable. Excuse me. It's now considered discoverable. And the police can get copies of that. I'm sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. Anyway, so when you're talking to ChatGPT, you got to be careful, because the things you tell it, the police can get it, the state can get it, and you excuse me, you're not talking to a lawyer. So and that is something that apparently people have not realized, and that has come up in some cases. A new case specifically out of New York, of all things, in Florida. I mean, excuse me, in federal court, where a guy was charged with. Excuse me, I'm just trying to drink water here for a moment. This guy was charged with securities fraud, and before he'd hired a lawyer, he had discussed the whole case with Claude. Claude's another one of the AI platforms, and while he's discussing with Claude, he's explaining what he did. Well, the FBI issued a search warrant for his house and took his computer and I guess everything he had on it, and therefore they got his Claude chats. Well, the federal court in New York said, well, that is not attorney-client privilege. It's not attorney-client work product either, because your attorney didn't direct you to work on this. So the things you told Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, whichever one, I use them all. I know I'm a geek. I try everything out. Anything you tell your AI, the state can get it, or at least in federal court in New York. Now, that hasn't been extended to the rest of the country yet, but I'm assuming that most courts are going to use this reasoning. They're going to say that, this is not communications to your attorney. So if the state or the federal government were to obtain it through a valid search warrant or whatever, by whatever means, then they can do so. And I think that is something that is going to be hard for people to remember, for one thing, because I don't know if everybody's listening to this show or read about this case in New York, but it's a pretty big deal because people still do that. Y'all have seen those when somebody Googles, like, how do you hide a dead body, or how long does it take a body to decompose? I mean, after they've killed somebody. There's so many examples of all this happening. People Google search their crimes all the time. Like, how do I break into a safe? Or how do I dump my cell phone? All these stupid things to do. But people do them. I mean, and they write them in. They think it's like no one's going to find out about it, but they always do. And I think it was like that case that Lindsay was watching so intently, the Karen Reed case, where they typed into Google, like, how long to die in the snow, or house long. I think that they misspelled it. That stuff becomes evidence against you. And now that we've gone to AI, it's not like you got more of a confidentiality with AI or with ChatGPT, with Gemini, and whatever it is. It's not protected. So if you get the bright idea and you commit a crime and you want to ask AI how to figure it out, that is a horrible thing to do and can be used against you potentially. If you do commit a crime, contact an attorney, call me. We can't say anything. So if you do that, that's protected. But what you tell ChatGPT, Gemini, they can't plead the fifth for you. They're not able to do that. There's and I'm like I said, and this goes to so many things. Like if you use notes on Apple, they can get that. If your text messages, voice memos. There's so many things that we use in modern technology today that we're not thinking about that isn't private. That's not going to be private for the purposes of a criminal case against you. You've seen those cases where people get into those. And I was just talking about video games, but I don't even know what the name is. Those little video game chat groups, and they start talking about things that they did that was illegal. That becomes discoverable. Anything you say can be used against you, as we've all heard before. So the best thing is if you think you may have committed a crime, and this is not advice, this is just general what I've seen. Nothing I say on the show is construed to create a lawyer-client relationship, by the way, or is to be taken as legal advice just based on observations and experience. Remaining silent, calling a lawyer is the best thing you can do. Asking a lawyer, what are your avenues in whatever situation you've encountered yourself in, whether you did something, you didn't do something, whatever it is better than going into the video game chat room or asking Gemini if hey, if I did this, is that technically illegal? I mean, all of that, even that you ask that question, is going to be used against you if they get it. Now, maybe they won't get it, but I mean, do you want to take that chance? Because that's a heck of a chance that they may not get that. So just be cognizant of the things when you use technology nowadays. Your cell phone, I cannot tell you how many times I have used, when I was a prosecutor, used what people have on their cell phone, the social media against them. One time, a guy made a rap song about the crime he had just committed, which actually was a really good rap song, by the way. And I listened to it after I convicted the guy. And he was talking about committing the robbery that he had done in the rap song. And it was on his phone. And of course, we played that because he confessed in his own rap song. There's so many examples of people putting the money and guns, pictures of themselves on Facebook. You see that all the time. That's going to come in. I mean, I don't know what people, I guess, I don't know what people are thinking when they want to just show all this stuff to the world. And I guess that's the way our culture is now. We show everything to the world, including our crimes. But if you are in that kind of a situation, think about it and call a lawyer first. Do not call ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not going to stand up and represent you in court. ChatGPT is not going to figure out a way to get you out of the situation. ChatGPT is not going to it can't do math half the time. Do you really trust it with legal advice? I get that too from clients. Clients will ChatGPT a question and then get some answers, then come to me and say, well, ChatGPT said this, and what you're saying is different. I'm like, yeah, because I know what I'm talking about. The robot doesn't. I've done this for 21 years. The robot is scraping the internet, finding out, who God knows what sources, Reddit or wherever they're looking on. What they're saying is absolutely wrong. I cannot tell you how many times I tell my ChatGPT, hey, stop, you are wrong. This is not the right answer, because it's incorrect all of the time. And there's a lot of lawyers that don't know that who've gotten in trouble recently, but I'm going to actually get to that and a lot of other things on the next segment of Both Sides of the Bench. Y'all stay tuned. Y'all stay tuned.
Keep it tuned here to 103.9 WYAB.
Sean, I'm really going to need your help.
What'd you do this time, Lindsay?
Well, unfortunately, I got pulled over last night.
And what did you tell the police?
Only had 2 drinks.
Only 2, huh?
Only 2.
And I'm assuming you had more than 2. Is that correct?
Only 2, Sean.
You should have stayed silent, Lindsay. I know you can't do that, and that's tough with you, but you should have said nothing.
I can't ever stay silent.
Yeah, I know that.
And now I'm in trouble, though. How can you help?
Well, I can tell you this. Next time you get pulled over, police, when you've been drinking and driving, stay silent. Don't say that you've only had 2 drinks, because that just helps them and hurts you.
So what should I have done?
Called me.
Really? How do I do that?
601-862-1320 or
onetextlaw.com.
next time you get pulled over by police, stay silent.
We think diamond prices in most jewelry stores are downright scary.
That's why at Juniker's, we're doing something about it. Because starting this Saturday, April 25th, you can buy directly from the diamond cutter. It's the Diamond Expo at Juniker Jewelry Company.
Our diamond cutters are flying in fresh production of certified diamonds, every size, shape, and price range. It's the Diamond Expo.
3/4 carat diamonds for less than $1,250.
1 carat starting at $2,500.
And 2 carat diamonds for less than $10,000.
Plus, qualified buyers get up to 12 months financing, interest-free.
Guys, this is how you buy a diamond.
Juniker's 2026 Diamond Expo. Save hundreds, even thousands, directly from our cutters.
7 big days, 2 huge weekends, now through Saturday, May 2nd. Juniker Jewelry Company, Mississippi's direct diamond importer. 1485 Highland Colony Parkway, just south of 463 in Madison, and junikerjewelry.com.
CBS News Brief. President Trump says he has canceled a planned trip by U.S. envoys to Pakistan to discuss peace talks with Iran. Tehran officials did meet with Pakistan. CBS's MTS tie-up with details.
Inside Iran, there's a lot of pressure on Iranian negotiators to not concede too much. Hardline factions inside Iran believe they have the upper hand over the U.S.
The destruction in Georgia amid massive wildfires is ongoing as firefighters continue their battle against the blazes there. This man is among scores who have lost their homes.
Within 2 hours of the wind shifting, smoke started rolling in. A fire truck pulled down the road, told us that we had to leave.
Murder charges now against a suspect over those 2 University of South Florida grad students who vanished on April 16th. A search continues for one of them. CBS's Meg Oliver.
The case took a dark turn Friday when the remains of one of the missing international students was found in South Florida. Hours later, his roommate, a U.S. citizen, was taken into custody.
CBS News.
What are people saying about Tom's Fried Pies in Richland?
Tom's Fried Pies. And I made the mistake. I ordered 1 pie. I figured, you know what? I'll try Tex-Mex. It was so good. Man, second go round, I ate the pecan pie. You will need a meat pie and a dessert one. Get both because they are off the hook.
I went to Tom's Fried Pies today, and I'm going back. I tried the taco one, really good. When I go back, I'll bring some home.
Tom'sFriedPies.com.
For decades, you've known the name Martin's for good times, great food, and the best live music. Now that's happening at 2 locations, downtown Jackson and Livingston. Check the websites, martinslivingstonms.com and martinsdowntownjxn.com for the many special events and live music lineups. You can chill with friends on the big patio at the Livingston location and enjoy the Blue Plate lunches and nightly drink specials. Martin's, downtown and Livingston.
Sean, we all know Ronald Reagan is the greatest president of our time.
Have you forgot about Bill Clinton? The 1990s were awesome.
Who could ever forget about Bill? Remember Monica?
Yes, I don't think Bill has forgotten about Monica either.
And Bill needed a lawyer just like Donald Trump does these days.
Yes, Donald Trump has certainly needed a lot of lawyers, and so do people that get pulled over by the police or arrested by the police, Lindsay. You know why?
Why, Sean?
Because somebody needs to tell them to shut up, like I attempt to tell you, which doesn't work.
Never works. I'm sure it does, but you can actually get in touch with Sean if you're in trouble at onetextlaw.com.
And you can also reach me at 601-862-1320. I can't get her to be quiet, but I can definitely convince you to be quiet if you call me at 601-862-1320 and get a lawyer. Be like the president.
onetextlaw.com.
And we're back on both sides of the bench. And for those of you who were listening, that's a commercial with Lindsay and I discussing whether you should get a lawyer or not, which I think is a good thing. And if you need one, and that's where I was going with this, if you need one, see, I'm forgetting my train of thought here. That's not good all the time. Anyway, if you need a lawyer, you can reach me at onetextlaw.com, 601-862-1320. We are now located at 771 North Congress Street in downtown Jackson, right behind the Supreme Court. We are actually moving the rest of the stuff in today. and we'll be there to service all of your criminal and personal injury needs. If you're getting divorced or have a child custody issue, please call somebody else. Yes, do not call me because I don't know anything about that stuff and I don't want to know. That seems like a total misery part of law to practice that I don't practice. So anyway, but I can, if you get charged with a DUI, if you are charged with domestic violence, if you're charged with aggravated assault, armed robbery, murder, all of it. I've done all of it for 21 years now, and I can help you out with any of that as well. If you're involved in a car wreck, give us a call, 601-862-1320. And Lindsay will answer the phone and take down your information, and we will get to work on your case. So we also have payment options, which are relatively new, I think, in the legal industry that I've not heard a lot of my colleagues offering, but it's a service called LawPay, which is like Affirm or Afterpay or Klarna. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with that, where you can apply with them and pay your legal fees and then make payments to them like you would when you're buying a pair of Nikes. Okay, that's me who's done that before, bought Nikes with Klarna or Affirm. But you can do that. We have a lot of those kind of payment options for you. So again, onetextlaw.com, 601-862-1320. Well, we've been talking about the confessing to ChatGPT. That's the best way I'm going to say it. And there has been new case law handed down in the Southern District of New York, actually, is where the one case comes out of it. It's called United States versus Hepner. Not to get in the weeds and bore you about it, but it's really what's called in the law a landmark ruling. That it's the first federal court decision to explicitly address whether conversations with generative AI platforms, specifically Claude in this case, if you've ever used Claude, and I hadn't until I read the case, so now I do use it. I use Claude, Perplexity, if I can say Perplexity correctly, as well as ChatGPT and Gemini, and whether that AI systems are protected by legal privilege, which is the attorney-client privilege you hear on TV. Like if you hire me and you tell me stuff, I can't tell anybody. So, but that does not apply to Claude or ChatGPT. They can apparently tell everybody, and they do. So, and the judge had ruled in that case that communications with the defendant, whose name is Bradley Hepner, were not protected by attorney-client privilege or the work product, what's called the work product doctrine. And for several reasons. One is AI is not an attorney. So there's no attorney-client privilege with something that's not an attorney. And AI obviously is not. So you don't have what's called an expectation of confidentiality with your AI platform, just like you wouldn't have it with your video game chat group, like I was saying before. It also says that AI is not really giving you legal advice. First of all, I mean, you can ask it legal questions, and I referenced that in the last segment, but the examples it gives you are generally wrong. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the stuff that I'll look up on AI about the law, I'm like, my God, man, how wrong this is. And I always wonder how so many attorneys have gotten busted. I mean, not busted. I know how they got busted, but relied upon this when if you've been practicing law long enough, you can clearly see how wrong it is. And I'll explain that. So about 3 years ago, I was like, oh, let me try out this AI stuff to write a brief. Excuse me. And when I did that, all the cases were right and they all fit my point of view. Well, in 21 years, I've never seen that happen before. The law never goes completely your way. So I got real skeptical and I was like, yeah, I'm going to check all these cases. And lo and behold, some of them didn't even exist. And the other ones that did were wrong. So from the get-go of this AI stuff, I was like, yeah, this stuff is not right. Then I actually did some math with it. I have a good friend of mine that's an engineer for NASA that I went to college with. And he called me up and told me this. He said, Sean, can you believe the AI can't do math? That's the one thing you think it could do. And you should check it sometimes. And I'm not a math person. I'm a lawyer. But it can't do math half the time. It gets it wrong. And I'm like, I don't know how it does that. But I'm like, how does a, computer program essentially or whatever get math wrong? I can see it getting the law wrong before I can get math wrong, but it gets math wrong. He calls it a cash burning machine that can't do math. So take that for what you will. So the answers it's giving you are not really, I guess ChatGPT can call it legal advice, but it's really bad legal advice. And it's not protected by any sense of confidentiality whatsoever. So when you talk to ChatGPT or Gemini about your case, and the federal government or the state gets wind of it, that may be discoverable. They may be able to use that against you. And now this is only a case in New York, and it hasn't been decided in other courts throughout the country. But I assume, just reading the reasoning of it, makes a lot of sense, and that most courts are going to apply this as, at least as what's called persuasive law in their respective jurisdictions. So just word to the wise, and be safe. Don't ask ChatGPT for legal advice, or confess your crimes to ChatGPT. Also, don't ask it for legal advice and then come to me and say, well, ChatGPT told me you're wrong. No, ChatGPT's wrong. I'm right. I can guarantee on that one. Not that I'm right about everything, but this is an area where I usually am, and I know ChatGPT gets things wrong because I've run through it almost every day, going through this stuff with the AI platforms, and it's incorrect more than it's correct, and it's a really dangerous thing on that, to rely upon it. It's a lot of fun to make funny images with, and to create workout schedules and meal plans, and it's told me how to paint my windows in my house correctly. I've done that with it, and that's fun, but I would not rely on it for legal advice whatsoever. So be very careful with that. And the courts are not going to be with you. It appears that's the way they're going. So watch out for all that. Now that we understand that we're not going to confess to ChatGPT, the next thing I really want to talk about are these myths in law that we get, that people just think, I called it last show, legal bro science. And if you're a guy, I'm talking about, like, we hear all this, like, take a bunch of creatine, which actually creatine does work, but take all these supplements and it's going to help out, it's going to make your biceps bigger or whatever. And guys have been doing that forever, since I was young. So we call it bro science. Dudes do. Well, this is the same thing, like legal bro science. You heard from your cousin or your friend, like, this is what it is. Okay. One of the things I encounter a lot is somebody walks in my office, and the minute they're arrested, they want to sue the police. They want to, because they were wrongfully arrested, according to them, and they want to sue the police. Okay, you can't do that. I'm not saying you can't sue the police. I'm saying every time you're arrested, even if you feel like you shouldn't have been arrested, doesn't mean you have a lawsuit against the police. It just doesn't mean that. And I know that you're angry because you didn't do anything, and you're mad. You want to sue. I totally get it. Totally get that that's true. But just because you were arrested and you didn't do anything doesn't mean you can sue the police. The Constitution, it protects against unlawful arrests, and that means arrest without any probable cause. So the police have some probable cause to arrest you, then that's okay. You cannot sue them for that. You can sue them for unreasonable use of force. You can sue them. That's a constitutional violation. You can sue them for that. You can sue them for those, but just the arrest alone is not proof of any misconduct. The fact that you went to trial on the charge that you didn't do, and you were acquitted, doesn't mean that the arrest was illegal. It doesn't mean that. I know that sounds crazy. Most people are like, what are you talking about, Sean? I mean, I got acquitted by the jury. The jury said I didn't do it. They didn't say you didn't do it. They said you weren't guilty, by the way. There is a difference, and I'm sure there's some shows where I'll explain that. But let's say you didn't do it and the jury finds you not guilty. Well, that doesn't mean that you can just sue the police for a wrongful arrest. Because if they had probable cause to arrest you, then that's okay. The police do not need proof beyond a reasonable doubt to arrest anyone. They don't need that. They just need a reasonable basis to believe a crime was committed. And it's a much lower standard. And they get past it all the time. But I'm telling you, I have so many people come and talk to me and say, come on. The minute you come to my office and talk about suing the police for arresting you, I start tuning out, because I have to worry about your case and why you were arrested. The last thing I want to worry about is your potential lawsuit that I know is not going anywhere, because I've been doing this long enough. It's not going anywhere unless they were just beating the crap out of you wrongfully. And I have seen that. Not saying that doesn't happen. But unless there was something like that, there was a totally unlawful, where they had no probable cause. And those are rare circumstances, at least that I've encountered, but it does happen. I have encountered them. So I'm not saying I haven't, and that does not exist. But 95% of the time, the fact that they arrested you and they shouldn't, you didn't do anything. Let's say you didn't do anything. That doesn't mean it's unlawful if they had probable cause. So when you are arrested and charged with something, the thing that I want to focus on is what you're charged with, how we're going to get you out of it. And I've done that so many times, y'all, with clients. I've been able to, like, when they didn't do anything. I just had clients this year where they were not guilty. They were innocent of the crime. But the first thing they wanted to do was talk about suing. Well, I don't want to focus on that. So I have to calm them down, walk them through the process, get them they're not guilty or dismissal, which has happened several times this year. It's been a good year for me on that. And we can focus on all that other stuff later if there is anything. And all the cases that I got somebody off, there wasn't any lawsuit because the police didn't really do anything wrong. They had some probable cause, victim sign an affidavit against a client or whatever it was, and their arrest. So there was no lawsuit against the police because they didn't do anything wrong. They had a probable cause. So when you get arrested, again, whether you did it or you didn't do it, focus on that first before you start running to your lawyer talking about suing everybody, because your lawyer's going to think you're crazy because they're like, okay, man, I don't want to deal with this person. I got so many other people calling me that I can deal with. I don't want to deal with the crazy person that's telling me to sue. Like, I want to deal on with the case, get you out of this situation that you're in, because I know, and most other lawyers know, based on experience, 95% of the time, there is no lawsuit there. Even though you are, and I get it, you're mad, and you should be mad. If you didn't do nothing, you should be really mad. Totally understand that. But that doesn't mean you have a lawsuit. So, and I know some people are going to probably throw shade at me for this. Like, oh, why are you taking it with I'm not taking it for the police. I'm just telling you that if they've got probable cause to arrest you, you do not have a lawsuit based on that. You just don't. But, if they do some other things that are violations of the Constitution, they beat the crap out of you and they're not supposed to use unreasonable force, fine, we can talk about it then. But let's talk about why you're arrested, how we're going to get you out of it, because you didn't do it. Because you guys didn't do it. I know none of y'all did it. None of y'all did it, and I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. None of y'all did it. Let's get you out of it. Let's figure out how to do that and focus on that. Don't worry about the lawsuit against the police. It's not your lottery ticket. You're not going to be, on the Real Housewives in Atlanta or anything like that based upon your lawsuit against the police. So let's get you out of the crime, and you can do that 601-862-1320 or onetextlaw.com. I'll be glad to help you with that. The other thing everybody comes and tells me is this. Man, I passed a polygraph. Okay. I passed a polygraph, Sean. I passed a polygraph. I mean, come on, man. Or I'll take a polygraph. I'll do a polygraph. That's really the most one that I hear the most. I'll take a polygraph. Well, first thing I'm going to tell you is let's not take a polygraph. And you know why? Because it don't mean crap. It doesn't mean anything. And the potential danger of it is worse. Like, so, let me say it this way, set up this way. Let's say you come to my office and say, hey, Sean, I want to take a polygraph. I want to take this polygraph. And I'm like, okay, Bobby, let's go take the polygraph, which I'm never going to say. If you come to my office, I will never say that. I guarantee you that. And if I do say that, please hit me over the head with something. Something must be off with me that day if I'm telling you to take the polygraph, because I'm not going to tell you that. And I can go into many reasons why. So let's say I agreed and we went there and you passed it, man. You passed with flying colors. You passed the polygraph. What am I going to do with it now? Am I take it to the DA's office? Okay, let me tell you how that works. Let me go back in time like Marty McFly 10 years. When I was at the DA's office, people brought me those things all the time. They're like, Sean, here you go. Here's my client passed the polygraph. You know what I said? So what? I got him on video. I got his DNA in the hat. I got the money from the robbery on him. I got a witness identification. So you're telling me he's really good at taking tests? He's a good test taker. You heard that one before. Some people are good at taking standardized tests. He's a good test taker. So what's that going to do for me? You think I'm going to dismiss the case when I was assistant DA? Hell no. And I never did. So let's do this. What if you fail the polygraph? Like, you want to take it and you fail it. Okay. Well, what if the state somehow gets the results? Now, they're not always going to get the results. You can try to keep that confidential. But if somehow they do, like there was this case that Lindsay and I did, the Eddie Williams case, where that stuff came out. Now, the fact that you failed a polygraph is ordinarily not going to come into evidence. I get that. But there are circumstances that if you say things that contradict stuff, it could. It's a possibility. Do you really want to open yourself up to that for something that is of no benefit to you? because the only benefit to you, because polygraphs are not admissible in court generally. Now, if if you fail it and you start contradicting certain things, there may be a way to get it in. I've seen some case law on that. So that's only to hurt you. So the fact that you pass one, let's say you go and you pass one, the best result, you pass the polygraph, doesn't help you at all. You can't introduce it into evidence. And if you give it to the DA and they got a bunch of different evidence on you, they're not going to care. You know how I know that? Because I've been in that chair before. And I've had so many people come to me with those things. Man, here's the polygraph of my client. I don't care. I didn't care. Because and now let's say it was a case that I didn't have any evidence. Well, I should dismiss it anyway, because obviously I don't have any evidence against the person. I shouldn't prosecute somebody who got any evidence. But I must have had some if they were indicted by a grand jury. Now, that always is different whether the evidence is good or not, because it doesn't mean just because and I'll do that in the next hour about how when you just because you get indicted by a grand jury doesn't mean you're guilty either. I've seen a lot of bogus things go through the grand jury. But just because let's say I've got a case that was indicted and there's evidence there, just because the fact that you pass a polygraph doesn't mean crap to me when I was an assistant DA. And so if I'm your defense lawyer, what I do now, I'm never going to advise you to take one of those things. And anybody that does is an idiot. I'm sorry. It's just because it doesn't help you. It's not going to help you. So don't do things that don't help you. And that's kind of the theme of this last hour. Don't confess to ChatGPT. That is not going to help you. Because what's ChatGPT going to do? Get you out of it? I just went into how it's wrong all the time. So it's not going to give you good legal advice how to get out of whatever you did or did not do. That's not going to do that. It's just going to be used against you. The video game chat room with the guys, those dudes ain't going to be able to freaking help you, but that's going to come into evidence. The polygraph that you passed is going to be useless. It's not going to help you. And the one that you fail may hurt you. Who knows? So don't do things that will hurt you. Do not do things. The best thing you can do, y'all, is this. And this is not legal advice. It's just based on my experience. The best thing you can do is do nothing. Stay silent. That is the best thing out there for anybody to do when they're facing some sort of criminal charges, in my opinion, is to stay silent. Because if you're silent, there's not a lot of things that people can do. They can't use a lot of stuff against you. Doesn't mean you're not going to get convicted. That can still happen. But the quieter you are, the less you say. Most of the cases when I was a prosecutor that we convicted is because the guy talked himself into a conviction. I can't tell you how many people I've cross-examined on the stand that convicted themselves while on the witness stand when my evidence was, 50-50. But the problem is what they would do is they lie. And they would talk themselves into a conviction. It is so easy for people to do that. And they do it all the time. So don't do that. Stay silent. Call me at 601-862-1320 if you get into any trouble. And I will be back hosting the next hour covering for Matthew Bishop on an extended hour of both sides of the bench. You all stay tuned.
CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
And Allison Keyes, President Trump says he has told U.S. envoys not to travel to Pakistan for peace talks with Iran amid the ongoing war. He told Fox News that the U.S. has all the cards and there's no point in sitting around talking about nothing. CBS's MTS tie-up.
They seem to be stuck on a number of issues, but perhaps more importantly, they want certain guarantees before heading into talks. As what those guarantees are remain somewhat opaque. It could be about the U.S.'s blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, in which we've seen a few dozen Iranian vessels either turned back and at least one taken into U.S. custody.
The misery continues for people in Georgia and Florida as wildfires fueled by drought and high winds roar through the area. Some 150 homes burned down, including some in South Georgia. CBS's Mark Strassman.
That fire took Anna and Scott Dudek's house.
We started gathering things up, watching the fire literally on our property, headed right for the house.
They saw flames coming and fled with 4 kids and 10 dogs to Florida. In the car, she watched their home burn on her phone.
It was so gut-wrenching because then I knew they got what I call home.
But the weather remains a risk. CBS News meteorologist John Elliott.
Welcomed rain for parts of the South. The problem is, as this marches into parts of Georgia, you could get a prefrontal lightning strike that could start additional fires.
More changes to the nation's capital at the behest of President Trump, this time on the National Mall at the Reflecting Pool. CBS's Christian Benavides.
The president told reporters earlier this week that his administration is planning to pour down a new surface onto the bottom of the pool atop its stone flooring. The swimming pool-style surface will be colored American flag blue, he told reporters.
Some students are thinking twice about what subjects they chose to embrace in college.
ZipRecruiter found the major grads most regretted was liberal arts, followed by political science, communications, and earth sciences. Many grads say they wish they had pursued a scientific or quantitative field. ZipRecruiter says nursing degrees are really paying off. There are a lot of nursing jobs available, and they offer the highest median salary upon graduation at $70,000. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
A U.S. appeals court is blocking President Trump's executive order suspending asylum access at the southern border. The court ruled yesterday that immigration laws allow people to apply for asylum at the border and that the president cannot bypass them. On Inauguration Day in 2025, President Trump suspended asylum over the situation at the border. This is CBS News.
Join Adriana Diaz and Kelly O'Grady for the perfect start to your weekend. Ease into your Saturday with CBS Saturday Morning on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-507-9701. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-507-9701. That's 800-507-9701. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Flying out of O'Hare Airport are getting a bit of a break.
The FAA had ordered flights at O'Hare to be reduced from just over 3,000 per day to just over 2,700 per day starting on May 17th. It cited concerns about airport capacity and issues with operational delays. But the FAA has now pushed the start date to June 2nd to, it says, allow airline operators sufficient time to modify their schedules due to certain crew scheduling already assigned for the summer season. The order expires on October 24th. Jennifer Kuiper, CBS News, Chicago.
In California, more than 100,000 people are expected at the Wings Over Solano Air Show at Travis Air Force Base. It only happens every 2 years, and this year it's featuring not only the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, but for the first time, there will be the Pink Jet. The all-female crew is honoring the fight of millions of women who have battled breast cancer. Their flight suits are pink, and it blows pink smoke. Allison Keys, CBS News.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Pump up the volume. Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are the individual views and opinions of the people expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of this radio station, its parent, affiliated, or related entities, agents, or employees.
It's time for The Full Story with your host, Matthew Bishop.
And well, this is not the full story of Matthew Bishop today, but I'm hosting of Matthew. And to cover from today, this is Sean Yurtkaran. I was just doing my show, Both Sides of the Bench, which runs from 11 to 12 on every Saturday morning. And this is Matthew's show, which y'all should tune in to the full story with Matthew Bishop. He does a really, really great job with his content on the show. He's really well informed on the issues. So tune in when you get a chance to that. But Matthew is out today, and I'm here covering for that. I'm having some throat problems. Anyway, sorry about that. So I am covering more legal misconceptions, like I was doing the last hour about. The main topic was don't confess to AI, and I hope that you guys will not do that. And what I got next for you, this stuff is going to be about kind of more of that. But I did want to. I have so much content for today, and then I have to kind of slow it down. And I want to talk. I'm getting into some DUI stuff because all week I've been getting, debates about the DUI topic that I talked about last week. And people just have they believe so many things that aren't true about a DUI stop. And I realize that sometimes I can get too in the weeds of it, but sometimes I have to kind of break it down piece by piece. So I'm going to do that here quickly in this first segment. The first thing is, okay, when you get pulled over for a DUI, the cop is going to ask you, what have you been doing? And unfortunately, 90% of the time, the cases I see, people say, I've had 2 drinks. That seems to be just this common legal myth that if you say that, the cops are just going to go no further. I've never seen them not go any further just because you said I only had 2 drinks and they believed you. They never believe you. They never, ever, not one time believe someone says, man, I only had 2 drinks, and they believe you just after you ran a red light or you were swerving or whatever it was, the reason that they pulled you over. So, but that's what 90% of the time is what people say. They say, I had 2 drinks, thinking that somehow is going to make the cop think, oh yeah, I guess he hasn't had that much. Might as well let him go on his merry way home. Never seen that happen in the tons and tons of DUI cases I've handled, but I've seen the majority of people say that thinking that's going to happen. So again, nothing I say here creates a attorney-client privilege or is to be construed as some sort of legal advice that you have to take. All I'm saying is, well, based upon what I've seen, remaining silent would probably be the best option. Don't say anything. Kind of like when your wife or girlfriend tells you something and you think, man, that's really stupid. Don't say anything because it's going to be worse on you. I've learned that the hard way all the time recently. So just don't say anything. It's better to remain silent if you can. You're not going to get out of it by saying you only had 2 drinks or 1 drink or 3 drinks or whatever it is. But that's what you see. You see that a lot. So the police officer is going to write in their report, probably before they pull you over, that you smelled like alcohol, whether you did or not. That's what I've seen. Like everybody always smells like alcohol. I think if you drink vodka, you don't. Maybe that's a myth too. That's just what I've heard. But every report I've seen, the person obviously smells like alcohol. It's on his breath. That's what the officer says. Okay, so you're going to have those things. And then you said, hey, you know what? I only had 2. Okay, so they got some probable cause there. Now they're going to offer you what's called a portable breathalyzer machine. That is not admissible in court, by the way. That was a confusion I was having online this week. That's not it's called a PBT. It's not admissible in court. You can refuse it. You can refuse that breath. There's the distinction between the PBT breathalyzer and the Intoxilizer 8000 at the station, and I'll get to all that. So on the roadside, you can refuse that PBT. That's perfectly fine to do that. You can refuse the field sobriety test. That is voluntary. And a lot of people, they don't, and they're just like standing around on one leg, falling over themselves. So, but that is not something that you have given what's called implied consent to take. You don't have to take the field sobriety test. So at this point, now that you have said that you only had 2 drinks, right? But let's say you refused the PBT and the field sobriety, and the cop has said that you smell like alcohol and it's all on your breath, they're going to say they have probable cause to arrest you for a DUI. When they do that, they're going to take you to the station and they're going to offer you the Intoxilizer 8000 machine. That's the one that is not voluntary. That by getting a Mississippi driver's license, you have given what's called implied consent to submit to chemical testing. And now the law, changed with the chemical testing where it's breath, blood, urine. That does not mean that you say, okay, no, I'm going to opt for the blood test. The cop's going to tell you what test you're going to take, and usually it's the breathalyzer. So when you take the breathalyzer, you can, at that point, you can take the breathalyzer like they've offered you, take it, and whatever it registers. You can also ask for independent testing of your blood, urine, breath, and you basically you call a doctor. I've never actually seen somebody do this successfully or try to do it, but it is something in the law that you can do. You can ask the cop for an independent test, and that is in the law. So you can that's something you have to think about. You can ask for an independent test. That is not the one the cop offered you. So that's not really necessarily like you get an option between what you're going to take or what the cop has said, but you can ask for independent test at your own cost. That's something to think about. The police are also supposed to inform you that you can, this is not necessarily your Miranda rights, but that you can make a call to receive legal advice or medical advice. That's in the law as well. So remember that. But you can ask for an independent test at your own cost. And I really actually want to get a case where somebody's done that. I've just never seen that before. And maybe people just don't know about it because the law also says that the police don't have to tell you that you have the right to ask for an independent test, which is, again, beyond what they've offered you. Okay. So what they're going to do is they're going to offer you that Intoxilizer 8000. You're either going to take it, blow, and you're going to, blow over, or you're not going to blow over, whichever what happens. Depends on how much, I guess, you drank. If it's only 2, you shouldn't be blowing over, right? And never seen that either. But if you refuse the Intoxilizer 8000 at the station, again, this is a test at the station, not on the roadside. You refuse it, and it's your first time ever to refuse it. So remember this, your first time to ever refuse the Intoxilizer 8000, you're going to get automatic 90-day driver's license suspension. Okay? So remember that. You refuse it, you're going to get an automatic 90-day driver's license suspension. And it doesn't happen right away. The DPS Department of Public Safety is going to send you a letter, and they're going to say on such and such a date, your license is suspended for 90 days. This is the part that really confuses people. That 90-day suspension is not part of any criminal penalties that you would receive if you're convicted. Because remember, you're not convicted of anything yet. You ain't even been to court. So you are going to receive a 90-day suspension called administrative suspension from the Department of Public Safety before you ever probably go to court. And if you're convicted at court, you're going to get 120 days driver's license suspension. So remember that. And they have to be in the law run consecutive. That means back to back, not concurrent together. So that's like 210 days. Again, my math is bad, and so is ChatGPT, like I explained. So they're going to run consecutive if you do that. Now you can do, if you refuse the breath test and they say, okay, well, now your license will be suspended in 90 days. Once you get the letter from the Department of Public Safety, you can file an action called a breath test refusal action and challenge that in county court. Usually is where those things go. Those are rarely successful. And to be honest with you, you'll see lawyers talk about that all the time. Like, oh, we're going to file that. And before, and I think you got 10 days to file it. I've actually never filed one because I just don't think it's successful enough. I think it's a way to gouge money out of people, and I'm not into that. I like to be honest with my clients, because usually the cop shows up and here's what they say. I mean, I've been to them before. They say, oh yeah, he was drinking. I mean, I could smell alcohol on him. And he told me he had 2 drinks. So, and the judge is like, oh, well, I gave you probable cause to ask, to take the Intoxilizer. And that's usually the whole ball game. So usually isn't successful from what I've seen, but you have the option to do it if you want to do it. So that's kind of where the whole crux of it is. And I think people were getting confused, and I'll back up, kind of go through that real quick. When you get pulled over on the side of the road and they offer you the PBT, that is something that is voluntary. You don't have to take it. There's not a consequence for that. The same thing with the field sobriety test. So when you get to the station, they offer you the Intoxilizer 8000. You refuse that, you're going to get the 90-day suspension. You can challenge that if you want to. Again, I've rarely seen those to be successful, but it happens. But it's up to you. And that is separate from any criminal penalty that you're going to get if you're convicted, because at this point, you're not convicted of anything. Remember that. Also, you can, when they offer you that test, if you take it, you take the Intoxilizer 8000, you can ask for an independent chemical screening of blood, urine, breath, whatever, at your own cost. So those are all things that you can do. I know that's a whole long list of things, but it's people seem to be confused. The questions I got, like, well, can I just opt for the blood test? Well, I mean, you can get your own independent test, but the cop is going to offer you a certain test, and you're going to have to take that. You refuse that, you're going to get the 90-day suspension. You can still take your independent test that you pay for. You can do that. So that is, I guess, I know that's not what most people meant by that. They kind of meant like, well, they get to tell the cop, well, I don't want to take the breath test. I'd rather take the blood test. That's not what you can do. You can get your own independent test in addition to what the police officer has required you to do based on the implied consent statute. So easy way to remember this: on the roadside, you can say no, 2 bags of salt, 3 bags of salt, whatever that is. Get to the station, see the machine. You say no, you get 90 days. You say yes, you're not getting 90 days. Okay. But you may get a BAC level over 0.08, which helps the state convict you. And that's another issue to the whole thing. So there is I discussed this last show. You hear this because this is another myth, right? Don't blow. Part of that is true. Part of that is not true. So let me put it this way. If you get pulled over and you don't say, I only had 2 drinks, you remain silent, right? You exercise your right to remain silent. You don't take the field sobriety test. You don't take the PBT. You refuse the breathalyzer. And then the evidence they're going to have against you at this point, most likely, this is just a hypothetical example, is that you were, maybe you were careless driving, and that's why they pulled you over. So they got that you were, you had, the report usually is verbatim, bloodshot eyes, smelled like alcohol coming from breath. So they've got that evidence they're going to use against that and into what's called a common law DUI, which they can convict you of, and they do routinely convict you of that. But in that scenario, you've given them way less evidence to do so. Okay. And that's what I've called like the perfect DUI stop. Now, let me go to practical terms and reality. That rarely ever happens, because guess why? You're drunk. So what you do is you're driving erratically. You tell them you had 2 drinks or 3, and then you take the field sobriety test and you're like falling over yourself. And then you get to the station, you're like, oh, wait, now I'm not gonna blow because that's gonna get me out of it. Guess what, buddy? It ain't. Not after you've done all that other stuff, because all that other stuff is gonna get you convicted. So you'd have to have like the perfect situation in order to do that. It's very difficult. Now, if you can remember that while you've had, a bunch of Jägermeister, that's great. I mean, I applaud you. Please call me. I'll give you a discount. I really will. I will give you a discount. But that is not something that I generally see. It's somebody that's done all these things, like told them they've been drinking and, been erratic, taking the field sobriety test, and then they didn't blow. So now we've got, an extra suspension. Whoop-de-doo. So that is why I like to differentiate that for people about I like to talk in terms of practicality, not what you see on TV or you hear these slogans. That is what happens in real life. But if you get any more questions, you can call me at 601-862-1320, onetextlaw.com. I'll be back on the next segment of the full story with Matthew Bishop. Stay tuned.
WYAB. Doctor, AC doctor, what's your diagnosis? My whole house was hot as a fever. Now my house is frozen, cause my air conditioner's open. Doctor, my AC's broken. Doctor, the AC doctor, heal my house, bless my soul.
The AC Doctors is your one-stop provider for air conditioning and heating installation, service, and repair. Contact us for money-saving repairs and lower energy bills.
Doctor, the AC doctor, heal my house, bless my soul.
Google the AC Doctors and get some relief today. TheACDR.com.
Come on down to Ascension. Come on in, Sunday worship 10 a.m. Amen. Jackson, Mississippi will sing with you. Pastor Christine sharing good news. Come on down to Ascension. Join the choir. Feel God's love lifting you higher. Ascension Lutheran Church, we're saving you a few.
At Flora Animal Hospital, our team doesn't just take care of your pet's needs. We feel like it starts with the pet parents. If the pet parent is informed thoroughly and understands the situation with the animal and why certain things need to be done or certain medications need to be given, it's easier to get that done. Our website is floraanimalhospital.com. It'll take you straight to the online store where your medicine can be purchased, food can be purchased, prescription or non-prescription, and they will be shipped straight to your front door. floraanimalhospital.com.
Hey, Rankin County, swing by the locally owned and award-winning 042 Wine and Spirits on Highway 80 next to Sonny's Barbecue in Brandon today. We've got one of the largest selections around with over 200 bourbons and whiskeys to ignite your taste buds, more than 50 vodkas, 50-plus tequilas, 30-plus rums, and ready-to-drink cocktails, as well as premium scotches. And get this, we've got over 400 wines in stock for the perfect pairing anytime. Discover your new favorites today at 042 Wine and Spirits right next to Sonny's Barbecue, Highway 80, Cross Gates, Brandon.
Hey guys, this is Casey Ellis with Ellis Autoplex, located on Highway 471 in Brandon. Ellis Autoplex, known as Little Truck City, is your old school mom and pop style dealership that's family owned and operated. We specialize in 4-wheel drive trucks, but don't worry, we have cars and SUVs too. Looking to sell your vehicle? Bring it by Ellis Autoplex, where we pay fair market value and we cut you a check on the spot. Need your vehicle service or repair? We can handle that too. Shop us online or set your appointment at ellisautoplex.com. That's ellisautoplex.com.
The only thing hotter than Mississippi in the summer is a Mississippi summer when the power goes out. This summer, be ready. Call Cowden Electric. They can install a permanent standby generator that automatically kicks on the second the power fails and keeps your whole house running. Hey, you already got a portable generator? Call Cowden Electric and let them set it up so you can safely plug it into your breaker box and power just the essentials. Don't wait for the next outage. Call Cowden Electric today or visit CowdenElectric.com and stay powered up when the grid goes down. CowdenElectric.com.
Efficient and trouble-free payroll processing is crucial to a business's success, and a lot of businesses are struggling with it. PeopleLease, a local payroll provider, not only offers top-of-the-line software, but also provides on-demand payroll support services. With PeopleLease, you're never on your own at every step of your payroll process. PeopleLease has the expertise in managing payroll challenges and will work hard to understand your business and employees. That's what makes PeopleLease the perfect choice for you and your business. Learn more online at peoplelease.com.
And we're back on the full story with Matthew Bishop. I got to get used to the intro and outro bump music he's got. It's really good stuff, though, Matthew. I really like it. Everybody's kind of made fun of my 80s rock for my show, which I do feel like fits the radio. I feel like radio is very 1980s. Maybe that's just me because I'm 46 and old, but that's what I have in my head. Anyway, welcome back, y'all. This is Sean Yurtcron. I am covering for Matthew Bishop. I just did my show, Both Sides of the Bench, where I discuss all sorts of legal stuff that you didn't know about or you thought were true that isn't true. And that's kind of what I'm doing here on this segment today, or this show today. I was talking about what happens when you get pulled over for a DUI and trying to explain things that people think are true that aren't true. I went through all that kind of stuff and just, things for you to remember about refusing the breathalyzer. And that refusal is just, if you can remember, at the station, not the roadside. You can refuse the one on the roadside. So that's really simple. I got that question a lot this week. You can request an independent chemical test. That's in addition to the one the cop's going to ask you to take, that you can refuse. If you refuse, you're going to get the 90-day suspension and the but you can refuse it and get that 90-day suspension, but you can request a test in addition to that at your own cost. So remember all of that. And the easiest thing, as I keep saying over and over again, the best idea generally is to exercise your right to remain silent, not to say I've only had 2 drinks, which is literally 90% of the cases that I see. Somebody says that to the police, and that just gives them probable cause. It doesn't make them say, guess what? He only had 2 drinks. They don't call that back to the station and say, yeah, only 2 drinks. I'm going to let the guy go. I mean, if it's only 2, I mean, totally, he's being honest. I totally believe this guy. Never seen that happen. It's never going to happen. So it's best to exercise your right to remain silent. I'd also say, the other thing I see a lot is people try to hold court on the side of the road. They think the side of I-55 is like the Supreme Court. You got to stop doing that, y'all. You got to stop doing that. It's not I've never seen somebody win their case on the side of I-55. Never seen that. It just makes it worse. It creates more evidence. There's a body cam video of you acting like a jerk off. I mean, that's all it is. And those are generally in misdemeanor cases where it's only gonna be a judge or no jury. So remember that most of these cases I'm talking about, like DUI, there's no jury. It is just the judge. What do you think the judge who is appointed by the mayor or is elected justice court judge, whoever hears the case, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, like, man, Bobby on the side of the road really made a good legal argument there. Yeah. Let me look at the video again. Oh, he said the cop was an a-hole. That's under state versus. That's never happened. That's not. They don't do that. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, you are not going to win your case on the side of the road. I mean, it's like me going to the doctor and trying to tell him what's wrong with me. I don't know that. I'm not a doctor. Like, that's what they do. I'm not going to, if he tells me I get cancer, I'm like, no, you're wrong about that, man. How do I know that? The police officer is telling you did this. Sometimes they're wrong. I'm not saying that, but call a lawyer. They're the ones who know. They're people. That's why, I got a really good friend of mine, and he is so adamant about that he is a certified tax preparer. Yet he's never, doesn't have an accounting degree or anything like that. One of my best friends in the world. And we get in this argument constantly. And he said, I've been telling him for years, I'm like, Will, please go to an accountant. Because every year he has massive tax problems. And he never listens to me because he's just so proud that he believes himself to basically be an accountant, even though he's had no formal training for this whatsoever, except some like tax preparation class. And then now he's gone through some, crisis where the IRS is like still processing his 2023 tax return. And he's like, he'll call me up, once a week, and he said, man, they still haven't done it yet. And I'm always like, hey, bro, this is why you go to an accountant, because they know what they're doing. I said, I've never done my own taxes. I'm not going to, because I don't know anything about taxes. That's not my specialty. That's where you go to people that know what they're doing. And I respect, and I'm talking about, like, I don't, I might fix little things around my house, but I am not a home repair guy. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician or a HVAC guy. Like, everybody's got their thing that they're good at. And I love listening to things that people do that I don't know anything about, because I find it fascinating, because I'm like, how did you get into HVAC repair? How did you become a plumber? Like, I always find, that's a very, very interesting. And because I don't know anything about it, and I always respect, listening to people who know a lot about things that I don't know about. And I don't try to like pretend like I know about them, because I'm like, I don't know a damn thing. I mean, this is crazy. Somebody who was a plumber years ago tricked me into paying like $400 for like a P-trap. I didn't even know what a P-trap was, y'all. I went to law school, I didn't know. And I got hoodwinked. Then I got a friend of mine, or a friend of a friend, whose like cousin was a plumber, who came over and now kind of does my plumbing work, and kind of told me, bro, dude, man, you got kind of screwed on that. And I'm like, man, I don't know. What do I know about that? I never learned that. So now my friend does the stuff, and if he's got a legal question, he calls me, because that's what I know about. I can tell them that. So it is best to leave. My point through all of that rambling is, it's best to leave that up to people that know what they're doing. And you don't know what you're doing by arguing your case with the police on the side of the road. You're just creating more evidence. And I said that earlier in this show, you can convict yourself. Like, it happens all the time. When I was a prosecutor, I just used to love it. I'm like, God, man, this guy convicted himself. Like, he's giving me so much because of the things he did. It is so hard. I used to say this around the courthouse when I was an assistant DA. If people didn't confess, man, we would have had a hard time convicting a lot of people. And we would have had a really, really hard time, because there wouldn't be much evidence against them. It's their own mouth. I think people's own words are probably at least 85% of the reason they get convicted. About 85%, where if they just said nothing, they may either they wouldn't get convicted, or their plea deal will be better because there wasn't as much evidence. Like it's people's own mouths that get them convicted, and no one seems to learn this lesson. It's like I wish there was like I think about putting on like a class or a seminar and just calling it "Shut the hell up," like just calling it that, like "Shut the hell up." Because if people did that when they're in situations of legal peril, they'd be way better off, because they're never going to win talking. It never works. Like, I mean, I wonder, maybe maybe this is the one thing AI can do. I can get AI to find me where a potential criminal defendant has talked his way out of a crime. Because I'm going to guarantee you that that's never happened before. That's never happened. But people keep on doing it. And I read, so when I was a prosecutor, I used to get really interested in why people confessed to crimes so easily. Like they just so easily confessed all these crimes. And I read the psychology book one time that said, like, when somebody's done something bad, they have this like inner need to get it out. Like it's just like this psychological need. So because I was all interested in like, why do people just tell, on themselves? Like, I don't know why they're doing that. But apparently there's this like need that people have to say when they've done something bad and they want to get it out. The problem is, that may make you feel good and your emotions and all, but it doesn't help you legally. It hurts you. Like the guy that confesses, like sometimes people think also is like, well, if I'm honest with the police about what I did, they're going to help me. No, they won't. I'm going to be honest. This sounds terrible. When I was prosecuting in Hinds County and the dude that talked, but the other guys didn't, I'm like, well, I got a better case against him. So which one do you think I'm going to go with? The dude that talked, because I got a better case. The other guys, I've got nothing. Now I might roll the other guy on them and that'll work out, but he's going to get it because I got the best case. The other guys, I don't have anything on. So it just doesn't, it's not like the cops or the prosecutor sits back and is like, man, this guy was awesome. He was so cooperative. He helped out. He told on himself. No. I mean, the only thing that, again, like I was saying before, that may assist you somewhat is don't be a jerk to the cops when you get arrested, like, because that definitely does not help you. That's not going to help you. But also, there's a fine line between being a jerk and like assisting them. And they're like, oh, I threw my the gun that I did it with is over there in the bushes, officer. Like, yeah, that's not a good idea. That's not going to help you. It's just not. Oh, I mean, here's my password, like to my phone. Go in there. There's a text message where I'm talking to my co-conspirator. These things are not going to help you. Like you're like so cooperative. And I've seen that. I've seen the defendants that are like so cooperative, thinking that's going to help them. Nope, doesn't help you. Now it may help you down the line when you want to plea deal and you're going to testify against people or whatever, like in that situation in May. But at the initial time, the more evidence you give the police officers, the state, the prosecutors, doesn't help you ever. And you never win your case on the side of the road. You never win your case by helping them. You just don't. And this is as honest as I can be. I'm sure my cop friends can be like, shut up, Sean, stop telling them that. It is what it is. I mean, and it's not going to work because people are still going to do it, but that's just what I've seen. Anyway, I'll be back on the next segment of the full story of Matthew Bishop. Y'all stay tuned.
WYAB.
When it's time to get serious about work-ready equipment, come see me, Noah Sullivan, at H&H Chief Sales in Carthage. From rugged Big Tex trailers to durable CM and Legend X truck beds, H&H has what your truck needs to work harder and last longer. For the field, H&H carries reliable ag equipment from Salford, New Leader, and Chandler. Visit H&H Chief Sales in Carthage today or anytime at hhchiefsales.com. H&H, quality equipment, knowledgeable service, and solutions that work as hard as you do.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Hot weather requires us to run the AC nonstop. Pure Air Consultants can inspect your unit today to ensure your AC is operating at peak performance. Pure Air Consultants is your go-to Rheem partner that can get the job done and have you resting in comfort in no time. Locally owned and operated, they have proudly served our community for over 22 years. Contact Pure Air Consultants today at mypureairconsultants.com. Rheem and Pure Air Consultants to the rescue.
CBS News Brief. President Trump and Iran are trading insults after Trump canceled a planned trip of U.S. envoys for ceasefire talks in Pakistan, saying nobody knows who's in charge in Tehran. CBS's Christian Benavides.
He posted on social media, nobody knows who is in charge, including them. Also, we have all the cards. They have none. If they want to talk, all they have to do is call.
Weather may cause more trouble as those wildfires continue to hammer Georgia and Florida. One volunteer firefighter died battling a brush fire. Scores of businesses and homes have been lost, sending families fleeing.
Everything that meant something to us came with us, so we have our home. We're just traveling.
The suspect in the disappearance of 2 grad students from the University of South Florida faces 2 murder charges now. CBS's Meg Oliver.
The Hillsborough County Sheriff announcing those new charges this morning. The case took a dark turn Friday when the remains of one of the missing international students was found in South Florida.
CBS News Brief. I'm Allison Keys.
Hello, I'm Gary Jolly from the Tractor Store. LS Tractor understands your passion for the land, and just like you, LS Tractor is committed to excellence and superior products. LS Tractor comes with a long list of standard features that are unmatched by other brands and backed with the LS commitment to provide exceptional customer service and satisfaction. You get a lot more for your money with the LS Tractor. Come to the Tractor Store in Richland to experience the LS difference. The Tractor Store in Richland.
Now it's time for the verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Psalms 8, verse 1. This has been the verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. Online at jrrestaurantgroup.com. That's jrrestaurantgroup.com.
The best investment on earth is earth. This is real estate agent Shane Saxton. As I like to say, the government can print more money, but they can't print more land. In the past 2 years, I've sold over $100 million in real estate. Call me today to get your land and home sold, because Saxton Sales isn't just a slogan. It's backed up by hundreds of satisfied clients just like you.
Find one of Mississippi's top real estate agent, Shane Saxton, on Facebook, or call Shane at 601-540-5040. Hopper Property, 601-724-1435.
Not again. Time to call that big faceless company. Let's see. Press 1 for sales. Press 2 for more waiting? Seriously? I'll be retired before this copier gets fixed.
Why wait on hold when you can have local service fast? Advantage Business Systems will fix it today. Real people, real service. None of the runaround. Visit absms.com. That's absms.com. Advantage Business Systems. Stop waiting.
And we're back on the full story of Matthew Bishop with Sean Yurtcron. I'm here covering for Matthew today, going into more legal stuff that y'all thought were true. That is not true. That is a topic of the day. Matthew usually covers national events, and it's a very good show. I don't do that. I'm just talking about the law these days. So I'm trying to stay away from I get so burned out on the politics, even though I do watch it a lot and read a bunch about it. But I think my life feels better when I don't talk about it. So anyway, I'm here just to one thing. I know more about the law than I do politics. So I'll leave that to the experts. Like I was saying before, that it's better to let people that know what they're doing do it. Like I gave you the example, my good buddy who's had his taxes outstanding for like 3 years now because he refuses to believe that he's not an accountant. He wants everybody to think that he is an accountant and will not let that pass. He just has to believe he's an accountant. So, and you, if you're not a lawyer, even if you are a lawyer, you shouldn't hold court on the side of the road. So that's the best advice I can give you. Just leave it. Call me 601, excuse me. I try to make myself say 0 instead of I don't know why. 601-862-1320, onetextlaw.com. We'd love to help you out on any criminal or personal injury matter that you may have. And I hope that you have not told the police everything. Like I was saying, the problem with a lot of these cases is that people tend to convict themselves. They give the police and the state the evidence that they didn't have and maybe never would have got. And I've seen more people send themselves to jail than probably the police sending them to jail. So sending people to jail. And that's when I was on the state side as an assistant DA. The amount of cases, I mean, I just loved it when somebody told on themselves, because it happened so much and it made my life so much easier. And I think it was probably the majority of the cases where that happened. Because that's why I was saying last segment, I read that book on psychology, like why do people have to tell on themselves, and they have the psychological need to do that, but that it never helps them because the prosecutors never like, oh man, this guy was so cooperative. Like they don't ever say that. Like they're like, I got you. Now you're done. So that's why there is a right to remain silent that I hope you choose to exercise in whatever context, whether you're charged with a murder or you're just pulled over the side of the road for DUI. And as I've said 40,000 times the last few weeks, don't tell them that. Don't say anything about you having 2 drinks. It's not going to get you out of it. It's not going to help you. So, you are going to convict yourself by talking too much. The next thing is too, I mean, people come and call me up and say, well, they arrested me and they didn't read me my Miranda rights. They say that all the time. They didn't read my Miranda rights. Everybody's watching way too much TV. They're streaming way too much Hulu. The police do not have to read you your Miranda rights just because you were arrested. I'm going to say that again. The police do not have to read you your Miranda rights just because they arrested you. Okay? For everybody back there, the police do not have to read you your Miranda rights just because they arrested you. They have to read you those rights if they're going to attempt to do what's called a custodial interrogation of you. Basically, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about the crime. That's when they got to do it. They do not have to do it when they arrest you. Your case is not going to be dismissed because they didn't read you your Miranda rights when they arrested you for a DUI on the side of the road or a domestic violence at your house or a drug case. I mean, if they didn't try to talk to you or ask about it, then they're not going to, they don't have to do it. They don't have to read your Miranda rights. So just flush your headgear out on that one and stop complaining that they didn't because you're watching too much TV. Because that's not what they got to do. If they attempt to talk to you, then they have to read them. And at that point, as I've said this whole almost 2 hours, your best bet is to remain silent. And again, nothing I say creates an attorney-client relationship, and I don't mean anything to be legal advice. This is based on observations and 21 years of experience and seeing it's like a sausage factory, y'all. Like it's the same thing over and over again. I see the same pattern. Guy gets arrested. He says he's had 2 drinks, or gets arrested for, aggravated assault or armed robbery, confesses to the whole thing, tells them where the money is, tell them where the body are buried. I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like they don't ever, there's not this whole, like, you watch these movies like the Thomas Crown Affair, if you're old enough, they had a remake, I think like 20 years ago. So like, that's even makes you old, but there's not these super burglars or these super criminals. Like you just don't, it's usually the guy gets caught, then he freaking completely rats himself out. I mean, it happens every time, 90%, 85%. I mean, just a ton of times the guy just tells on himself. And, what are you going to do at that point when you tell on yourself? So, I'm glad that everybody watches TV and learns that they have to read you your Miranda rights. I just wish everybody would know what those rights were. It seems like they've heard of the word Miranda is from the case called Miranda versus Arizona, a United States Supreme Court case. I think 1968 is the right year. And those rights include your right to remain silent, which no one ever seems to exercise. So that is something to think about the next time you are facing legal or criminal charges. You might want to know what those Miranda rights that you want so badly read to you consist of. So think about that. The other thing is too, people always ask me about their cell phones. That's kind of a new thing. And I want to say new thing. We've all had cell phones. I think I got my first cell phone in the summer of 2000. This is how old I am. I'm about to be 47 in a couple months. But in 2000, I was 21. And I had one of those Nokia phones that, that you could play that snake on. If anybody remembers that, throw it against the wall. I had one of those Nokia phones, and I would I would, you couldn't really text on those things, I don't think. So it was a different kind of era. I think I remember getting the first phone I could text on around 2007-ish, and I think it was that Motorola Razor. I'm trying to remember cell phone history over the last 25 years right now. Anyway, people think, when you had one of those Motorola Razor phones and you could like delete the text messages and they would be gone forever. When you had that like 2007, I think that worked fine. Okay, we're fast forwarding nearly 20 years. That is not the way it works anymore. Those messages are not gone, y'all. They're not gone. Like, first of all, the person you sent it to has probably still got them. There's screenshots, there's iCloud, there's Google Drive. I mean, my God, then they get your phone and they do what's called a data extraction. And they get the whatever messages that you tried to delete. And by you deleting them, by the way, you know what else you did? You made yourself look really guilty. It's called consciousness of guilt, which you have put on yourself. You're consciously guilty of doing something by deleting the messages, And so, and because they get them, they end up getting those messages. And now, I do want to say this. There is a difference between your phone and your expectation of privacy with your cell phone than there is with your car. And I think the first hour I was talking a little bit about what's called the automobile exception to search warrants. The Fourth Amendment was initially created to guard against search and seizures of your home. Like your home is your, man's castle, woman's, it's their castle, it's their home. And that didn't extend to a car in the same way the Constitution means your home. Well, the United States Supreme Court came out with a case, I think it was about 10 years ago, that discussed the privacy rights that we have in our cell phones, our phones, and that because that was, because it's new technology and it's new things. So then what they said basically is they have to get a search warrant for your phone. So like, let's say you're accused of committing a crime. They seize your cell phone. Well, they can't just start dumping it right there. They've got to actually get a search warrant. Now, I guess they could ask you, and most people again are going to say, "Yeah, sure, go through my phone." Just like they said, "Yeah, sure, I'll confess." Again, you know what I've said about that. But they have to get a search warrant, and once they do, they can. I used to do this when I was working in the DA's office and the Attorney General's office, see these phone dumps and how they did them. So I kind of pretty well versed in that. And I mean, they're going to get the stuff the way they phone dump the stuff. They're going to get all that stuff out of your phone. So by you, and I used to use this too when I was prosecuting people that would delete their messages. And be like, I tell the jury, just pick up the phone and be like, you see what Tommy did here? He got rid of the message right before he was arrested. It said, bring me the, 5 ounces or whatever. I said, why do y'all think he did that? Consciousness of guilt is why he did that. But his message was backed up to iCloud and his girlfriend had it. And we got that too. So that's not going to work. You're going to make yourself look more guilty. Another thing too is I used to use what's called cell phone triangulation information. And what that is like when you got your phone, you're nowadays you're pinging off even more stuff because you have the GPS locators and all that kind of stuff. But I remember the first time I ever used it was 2013, and I convicted this guy that had killed his mistress's boyfriend. He was a married guy, and he was seeing this woman, and she was sleeping with this other guy, and he got really, really pissed off about it. What an idiot. Anyway, he got really pissed off, so he killed the other guy that she was sleeping with. And one of the ways that I got him was, of course, he had a cell phone, and when you got your phone, you're pinging off the cell phone towers. And when you look at those cell phone tower site maps or what they're called, you'll ping off like the northwest corner or whatever, and kind of gives you a general idea of the direction you were anyway. And so then, his argument is like, I wasn't even there. Well, your cell phone says you were right there, buddy. So, and we know everybody's got their cell phone on them. So when you commit a crime and you got your cell phone, you can get tracked. I've done it on the prosecution side tons and tons of times. But there's another problem. So let's say you're going to go commit a crime or whatever. I'm not trying to tell you how to more successfully commit a crime, but let's say you did. You say, okay, man, I'm going to leave my cell phone at home, and therefore no one can track me. Okay, sorry, buddy. That's probably not going to work either, because here's why. So first of all, the prosecution can make an argument like, well, why did he just happen to leave his cell phone at home that day? Because we got all these records of it. He had the cell phone with him every 5 seconds of every other day, for one thing. Then he had his Apple Watch on, or his iPad, or whatever, or there's a GPS in your car. My point is, we are so interconnected in this society these days that it's hard you can't go back to 1995 anymore. I saw an article on NBC yesterday that said, kids today that were born in like 2005, around that time, about 20 years old now, 21, wish they grew up in the 90s like I did. And they lived in that world, the 90s. The 90s were great. Got nothing. I love the 1990s. But because there's too much tech and they're just overstimulated, which God bless, I imagine they are. I see these kids nowadays and they have a lot to deal with that I did not have to deal with, that a lot of y'all listening didn't have to deal with. And God bless them. It's a different world. Now we had our own challenges too. So, you can meet up, you can meet people a lot easier on Facebook than you could. And now you had to call the girl's house. Y'all remember that was terrible. I got to do all that. But you don't have to do that now in the same extent. So, but they have a lot more overstimulated world than we did. And they wanted to live back in that time. Unfortunately, we don't have a DeLorean and we can't go back in time. So we live in this digital world where we're connected at all times. And I know that gets frustrating for a lot of us. I miss the days where I could go to, and I didn't really live too long in that world because I was just 21. I think by the time I had a cell phone, where you could go to the bar, like no one knew where you were, like you're just by yourself, some peace and quiet. That doesn't happen anymore. So we're all connected. So if you go out and you're committing a crime, usually you're going to be able to get tracked, whether you got your phone on you, your Apple Watch, put your iPads in the trunk, your car's got GPS, whatever it is. There's a video, there's a camera everywhere that sees us. So you can't escape that. So really what the best thing to do is don't try to make yourself look more guilty. And that's the way I look at it. Like, you don't, again, what's called consciousness of guilt. Don't make yourself look more guilty, because when you try to get rid of stuff, then you look more guilty. So it's kind of like the reverse of what I was talking about. When you confess and cooperate, you help and you confess to the whole thing and you give the state and the police more evidence than they would have had. This is like the reverse of that, when you try to cover up your crime. And the old saying goes, the cover up is worse than the crime. It's kind of back from Watergate, Nixon years. The more you cover things up, the worse you look. And then the jury's like, God, man, I can't believe that guy's so guilty. Look what he did. He got rid of all his text messages, dumped his phone, They recovered it because they got it off his girlfriend's phone, the messages he sent her, And so then you make yourself look bad. And this goes back to the general theme of this. Don't do anything. If you are charged with a crime, just call a lawyer, 601-862-1320, onetextlaw.com. Call me. Call somebody else. I know a lot of good lawyers in this city that are good friends of mine that'll give you great advice too. I could, want to use me, I can refer you to one of them where they could, talk to them. Those are the people that know what they're doing. Don't be like my friend who has got his taxes out for the last 3 years because he wants to be an accountant, and he's not an accountant. So therefore he's got tax problems now. You aren't a lawyer. So you doing these things that you think are helping yourself or end up hurting yourself, and they're going to put you in prison for a long time. And you don't want that. So don't do that. Think through a little more. Now, I know everybody's not going to hear what I'm saying, and they're going to do, and I can talk my way out of this crime. I can talk my way out of it. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's never going to happen. You will never be able to do that. I've never seen in 21 years somebody successfully talk themselves out of a criminal charge that they're facing. That doesn't happen. And that's the same thing. Like when I have clients, and I've had clients, I had a case this year like that, where the client I know is innocent, right? And they want to take the witness stand. And think about this, y'all. Let's say you didn't commit something. You're actually innocent. You didn't commit something, and you want to get up on that witness stand and you want to say, I did not do it. I didn't do it. You know what I'm going to tell you? You don't need to get on that stand. Sounds crazy, right? Because you're innocent. You'd think that, wait, I want to get on the witness stand because, I didn't do anything. I'm obviously innocent. Problem is, the other guy who's the prosecutor is a trained professional, and what he's going to do is what I used to do, is make you look guilty even if you weren't. They're going to ask you so many questions that are going to hang you up, and you're going to, first of all, you got to get on this witness stand in this hard wooden chair in front of all these people. There's 12 people in the box. There's a judge. There's a court reporter. There's all these bailiffs. It's really intimidating. It's probably hot in the courtroom if you're in the Hinds County Courthouse. People are really sweating, sweating like in the movie Time to Kill. It's Mississippi, right? So you're under all that pressure. And you're going to sit in that chair, and you're like, I'm going to tell my business. And the prosecutor's going to get up and they're going to ask you the first question. You're going to fold like a cheap suit. And it's not on you. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I mean, it's an intimidating situation if you're not somebody that does this for a living. It's a very intimidating situation. So like you as the person who actually is innocent and didn't do anything ends up getting on the stand and looking guilty like you did something. And then the jury's sitting there like, well, shoot, maybe he did do it. There wasn't any evidence before, but Johnny sounded kind of suspicious. And then you're like, okay, great. So you just help the state out. And again, this goes to my point of like, you're not going to help yourself by talking. Like you're not going to talk your way out of it to the police when you're in the, in the custodial interrogation after they've read your Miranda rights properly. In that instance, not on the side of the road. Generally not going to talk yourself out of it when you're on the witness stand, and you're not going to help yourself by doing those things. You got to leave it up to a professional. You got to hire a professional to do that. Just like I hire somebody to do the plumbing in my house or do my HVAC work. You want somebody that knows what they're doing, because these are high stress environments. And there are people that have been trained for years and years, people that have, tons of PTSD like I do from doing this for so long, because they've seen every possible scenario that you can see. And it is not something that's foreign or new to them. I only have a few more minutes here, but there's one thing I did want to get to that I just remembered to get to. When you hire a lawyer, remember this: be honest to your lawyer, because just like I said in the first hour of the show, don't confess to ChatGPT because it's not confidential. Well, you can confess to your lawyer because that is confidential, because you have an attorney-client privilege. You can't confess to ChatGPT, but you can confess to your lawyer. So tell your lawyer the truth. Don't lie to your lawyer, because that doesn't help you. Because a lot of people think, I'm going to lie to my lawyer. I'm going to convince him the stuff I'm saying is true. Just like I try to, talk my way out of it with the cops, or, I'm later going to get on the witness stand and talk my way out of it. Don't lie to your lawyer. Tell your lawyer the truth, because if you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you. I can't figure out what the best way to get you out of it is. It's kind of like some guy with, high blood pressure says, man, I don't know I just eat, kale every day and run miles. Like, no, you don't. I mean, you're sitting there drinking like a case of Bud Light and chicken wings. That's why I got high blood pressure. But you got to tell the doctor the truth. You got to tell your lawyer the truth. You need to tell him everything, because guess what? He can't tell anybody what you said. You're good. And who cares when my clients have done, let's say they did something, I don't judge. That's not my job. If I was in a judging, I need to do something else. If I had some judgment on what people did, I need to get a new line of work. That's not my job. My job is to get you the best possible outcome that I can, no matter what you've done, no matter what you haven't done. So you don't need to worry about that. Tell your lawyer the truth. Don't talk to the police. Stay silent. You'll never talk your way out of this stuff. Trust professionals when you do this stuff. And lastly, do not confess to ChatGPT tonight. I hope you all have a great Saturday. It's been great sitting here the last 2 hours. Bye.